neighbor, telling stories like no other flavor. Local talk in the palm of my hand. Dial a number, it's time to expand. Join a program, let your worries unfold. Listen and share, it never gets old.
Good morning and welcome to the Helpers Hour on Nextdoor Radio, nextdoorradio.com, and the Nextdoor Radio app. We are so excited to have you every Friday from 10 to 11 a.m. I'm excited to introduce my guest today. I have Mary Beth Somich with me from Your Journey Through. Mary Beth, how are you doing today?
Good. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Now, I always like to start the show just asking folks, tell me a little bit about yourself, some of how you got into what you're doing now, and what really brought you into the amazing work that you're doing today.
Sure. So my name's Mary Beth Somich. I own and operate Your Journey Through, which is a private therapy practice. It's a group practice. So we have 6 therapists total now, 5 plus myself, that specialize in a lot of different things. All of us see teens and young adults. That's kind of the common thread. But I specialize in family dynamics. We have a therapist who does more play therapy with younger kids, trauma therapy, couples therapy. So we really try to be kind of a one-stop shop for families. Personally, I got into this field because I grew up in a place with very limited mental health resources and kind of saw the impact that had on both the individual and community level, and said, something's not right here. I want to give back to this. And it's also was just really interesting to me. Instead of reading teen magazine, I was reading Psychology Today, like in the school library. So that's kind of what started my passion for it. I went on to major in psychology and sociology, and then I went to Columbia and got my 2 grad degrees. So then I started private practice, and here's kind of where we are.
Sure. Okay. So from the beginning, did you know, man, I really want to work with kids and families, or is it just psychology in general is super interesting?
I thought I wanted to work with young kids, and I did that for quite a while. A lot of my internships were child-based, so like foster care, family wellness programs. And then I got into private practice and I started working with kids, and I was really working with parents.
Sure.
And I found that I really loved the teen and young adult work because they're just in that time of transition, and so much in life is changing. What I actually specialize in now is called enmeshment. So during the adolescent years, you're supposed to healthily differentiate from your family and kind of become your own person. Hopefully they support that. But sometimes there's just a lack of boundaries in these family systems that doesn't allow for that. And that can complicate relationships in adulthood, especially with parents. So that's kind of my jam. People come to me all the time saying, I have a monster-in-law, I don't know what to do. And that has kind of become my specialization.
Gotcha.
So, yeah.
Well, let's lean a little bit more into that enmeshment, because I think there's some really interesting science there. From the place of at infancy, we have to be enmeshed for survival. If we're looking at kind of that timeline of differentiating ourselves, of setting those healthy boundaries, kind of how does that work throughout the years?
Yeah, I think it starts in adolescence. And what I come back to a lot with families who have challenging adolescent children or college age children is the parent identity development model. So it kind of looks at when you find out you're going to have a child, sometimes like almost naturally you create this image in your mind of who you think this child is going to be, what you think they might do, maybe what you love their interest to be, like, oh, I played soccer, I would love them to play soccer, that kind of thing. And then you have this child who is their own person. They almost never meet that mold. And so it's really a reconciling of like just understanding that child for who they really are and allowing their own freedom and independence. Some families have harder times than others, and a lot of that is cultural or generational. And then, it blurs into boundaries. And where I find that enmeshment is really magnified is when adult children get engaged or get married or start having their own kids, and there's a big shift in the family system.
It sounds like at those major transition points, adolescence, like puberty, going from 17 to 19, often moving out of the home or becoming partnered with somebody, it sounds like enmeshment really can flare in those moments. Would you say that's correct?
Yes, and it's typically, and I'll just kind of speak generally. A lot of times there will be kind of the overbearing mother who gets her emotional needs met through her children.
Mm.
And usually that is stemming from a relationship where her needs are not met in a partnership or a marriage of her
Gotcha.
own. So it's interesting to kind of pull that apart and engage the whole family in changing that system.
That has got to be powerful and perhaps a little jarring sometimes.
Yes. Yeah, but I love it.
Yeah, good on you.
Yeah.
Looking at that too, I think it's really interesting when we're looking at that view of what my child will be, that mold that we create in our minds. I talk to parents a lot about, like, hey, it's okay to grieve those parts that didn't turn out the way that you expected. That doesn't mean your child is better, worse, or otherwise, but you had an expectation, and that expectation wasn't reality. And it's okay to grieve that moment. I wonder if you run into a lot of grieving moments for, this is what I had hoped I would have in a partner, or what I'd have in a mother-in-law, or whatever it might be, and just needing to grieve that moment so we can move on. Do you see a lot of that?
A ton of grief. Yeah, a ton of grief and a ton of acceptance work, which acceptance is the last stage of grief.
Yes.
And so that one's the hardest. A lot of times
Absolutely.
there's a phrase, stop going to the hardware store for milk.
Yes.
Right?
I'm very familiar with that.
Love that one. Because that's a lot of what this is sometimes. Like, but I wanted this, but I'm trying so hard to find it in this person or this place. And it comes to acceptance sometimes.
Absolutely. Yeah, I work a lot in ACT on the behavior analyst side. It's acceptance and commitment training, and the psych side would be acceptance and commitment therapy. But looking at that acceptance piece and the not going to the hardware store for milk, I wonder if there are times where people feel almost like abandoned or betrayed when they find that the thing they were looking for in this person, let's say in a partner, they were trying to get from their child, which is inappropriate. And now, like, do they get it from their partner? Do they find another friendship? How do they build a community to be able to fill all those needs? Or recognizing again, holy smokes, I'm lacking a community.
Yeah.
Yeah. How does that play, community, and because you said culture can really play into this?
It
How does that
can. Yeah. I think you always have to kind of witness the cultural role. A lot of times we will kind of disrupt the way that things are in the family system.
Sure.
A huge phrase in the enmeshment kind of culture is like, don't rock the boat. It is how it is. Like, don't ask questions.
Sure.
And so we're disrupting all of that. And usually it's an adult child saying, this doesn't work for me. This is uncomfortable. This is really pushing my boundaries. And it's definitely not always a smooth process, but I've had many clients who have navigated this successfully and really found more authentic relationships with their family through healthy boundary setting. I always tell my clients boundaries are not mean. I think that's like people are afraid to be assertive. They think it's aggressive, but it's actually compassionate, because if you want to protect the relationships that you really value in your life, they need to be authentic. And when you're not setting boundaries, when you're not having authentic communication, resentment just builds and builds.
Yes, I think that's really beautifully put, that the boundaries are a show of compassion, that either being genuinely resentful and aggressive or people pleasing. Either way, it might be nice. Perhaps on the people pleasing side, it might be nice, but it's not very kind.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. It sounds like a lot of behavioral patterns that across the whole family you're helping to completely rewrite in some cases.
Sometimes, yeah. Yes, definitely. And I love doing that kind of family systems work, because from the beginning, I've kind of been systems oriented. I think that's the sociology piece in me. You can't really look at a problem without looking at the system that it originates in, or the culture or the environment. And so when parents will come to me with a child who's quote unquote problematic, I will say there's not just one member of the family that is problematic. This is a system. Everyone has to be willing to change if we want to see this behavior change. And sometimes that's received well, and sometimes it's like, what are you talking about? And
fair. Absolutely. Sometimes stuff is really hard to hear. And when we feel that, and of course, we all do this at some point, that someone else has caused a problem, we don't see our partner, it can be an affront
Yeah,
to have that brought to our attention. I
definitely.
think one of the beautiful metaphors I've seen is somebody putting a weight on a sheet, saying, okay, there's the problem you can see. Look at how far the wrinkles go.
Oh, I like
Away.
that.
Yeah.
Therapists and their metaphors.
Yeah. I love me a good metaphor.
Right.
Absolutely.
I know. So
Absolutely.
good. Yeah.
So you said you finished up your internships and you went into private practice.
Mhm.
Were you in a group practice at that point, or did you start on your own? Kind of how did that shift?
Yeah, so I did some intensive in-home work in an agency for a little
I'll
while.
pause you for a second. Intensive in-home for everyone out there. Incredible work that not enough people know about.
Yeah, and it is intense. It is properly named. You are literally going into the home like 3 times a week into the context. A lot of foster kids, adoptive families. That was kind of the population that I was working with, and doing some pretty intense therapies. And so I did that for a little while. And then I had this like kind of pause where I was moving. My husband is military. He was active at the time. So we were kind of with licensure laws, that was kind of challenging.
Yes. Practitioner to practitioner. I'm so sorry.
Yes. Yeah. So we got through that and found kind of a home base in Raleigh. And during the time we were moving around, I was doing a lot of developmental psychology work with kids and running some groups with NAMI, which is National Alliance of Mental Illness. But then finally landed at a home base, and I just hit the ground running, starting my own practice in a place where I really didn't know anyone.
Just game on, let's go.
Yeah.
Good on you.
And it was a very different landscape then in terms of marketing. I mean, that was 2016. So even
much different.
Yeah, like even social media was not huge then as a way to market yourself in a modern context. So it took me maybe like a year to a year and a half to get like really full in terms of caseload. And then it just kind of kept taking off from there. The pandemic was huge in terms of just mental health need. And I was actually expecting my daughter at the time, our first baby, and just overwhelmed with referrals. And that's when I decided it was time to transition into group practice.
That makes a lot of sense. So very, very practical transition.
Yeah. And I really wanted to handpick the person that I was going to trust my clients with during my maternity leave too. So that was important to me. And it just worked out so well that we've continued to grow, and here we are.
Fantastic. And you said you have 5 clinicians with you now.
Yes. Yeah.
Awesome. When we get back from the other side of the break, I'd love to know a little bit more about who they are, what services they have, who's available to take on clients, because we have so much need right now.
Sure.
We'll be back right after this commercial break. You're listening to Next Door Radio, nextdoorradio.com, and the Next Door Radio Hour. We'll be back in just a moment.
R. Sons Construction is your trusted concrete experts in Oxford and surrounding areas. They are a family-owned business with years of industry experience, dedicated to delivering top-notch concrete solutions tailored to your unique needs. Whether it's concrete steps or grand pool decks, they have you covered. The team at R. Sons Constructions are highly qualified professionals and is committed to excellence, ensuring every project meets the highest standards of quality and integrity. Ready to turn your concrete dreams into a reality? Contact them today at 919-482-2227 for your free estimate and discover why they are the go-to choice for all things concrete.
Local coffee shop located in downtown. Oxford is here for the community. Local coffee shops are closed down. Hot coffee latte, cold brew, and my favorite, the espresso shot.
Visit the local coffee shop, She Chose Down, right now. She Chose Down is located downstairs of the Hub in downtown Oxford. This was my first massage. Tracy walked me through the entire process. It made me feel comfortable as possible. We had a delightful conversation and our studio was beautiful. I will definitely be returning for another massage very soon. This is a direct quote from a review from the Whole World Massage, located at 3509 Haworth Drive, Suite 205 in Raleigh. At Whole World Massage and Med Spa, our focus is you. We love working every day with people like you, helping them look, feel, and perform with youthful energy and beauty in mind and body. Call today to see how Tracy can help you feel great today. 252-213-4478. 252-213-4478.
Hey, I'm David with Turnkey MSP. We provide many computer services to businesses and other organizations here in this area, such as managed IT services, network security management, data cabling, phone system design and integration, audiovisual system integration, and much more. Give Turnkey MSP a call today at 252-436-7474.
Hey, this is Jim Quick. Join me on Next Door Radio every Sunday at 3 o'clock for the Swamp Soul Show, an eclectic blend of rhythm and blues, Americana, and neo soul. All brand new stuff, but it fits perfectly right here on the Carolina dance floor. Contact me, tell me what you think at jimquick@swampsoul.com or call me toll free at 1-877-JIM-QUICK. The Swamp Soul Show, Sundays at 3 o'clock on Next Door Radio and nextdoorradio.com.
Welcome back to the Helpers Hour on Nextdoor Radio, nextdoorradio.com, and the Nextdoor Radio app. Helpers Hour is brought to you by Clove Hitch Behavior. We help with tantrums and meltdowns, fears and phobias, and behaviors resulting from trauma. You can call 919-579-6192 or text if you prefer, or go to chbehavior.com. I'm excited to bring us back with our guest, Mary Beth Somich from Your Journey Through. When we came from the other side of the break, we were talking or beginning to talk about the different specific clinicians that you have in Your Journey Through and what they all specialize in. I know you mentioned earlier that you have someone for trauma, someone for this, someone for that, but who's there? What do they specialize in, and who has availability right now?
Yes, that's huge. So I will share more about my clinicians with availability first. So first, we've got Layla Williams. So she is my go-to for teens, especially teens with anxiety. She just has this like relatability and nature, especially teen girls, that they just feel so comfortable with her. So she's pretty much my go-to for teens with anxiety. She has, she's run our DBT groups in the past, so she's well-versed in DBT skills.
Wonderful. Can you, real quick, for our audience?
Yeah. DBT stands for dialectical behavioral therapy. It's a lot about emotional regulation, developing skills for distress tolerance, coping, mindfulness, and interpersonal skills. So all of those. We actually have like a few therapists that are well-versed in DBT and have run, that's our most popular group for teens.
Again, for everyone listening, DBT groups.
Yes.
More people need to know about them.
Yeah.
They're incredible for our teens, especially our young women.
Yeah, we are running, I think, 2 cycles for high schoolers this summer. They're going to be twice a week for 3 weeks. And then we're going to do a middle school group this summer that's going to be once over a 6-week span. So
very, very cool.
Yeah. And we try to also run it at least once per quarter. So like spring, fall, winter, there's always a teen DBT group happening as well. So that's our most popular group. A lot of teen DBT programs are like really intensive, like 3 to 6 hours a day, kind of like an intensive outpatient format. And so we wanted something more accessible and more affordable than that. So
that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. And so Grace, that leads me into Grace Bailey at our practice. She is currently running the Teen DBT group. And Grace works with children, teens, and adults. She's really interested in trauma, and she's getting trained in EMDR.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, again. So EMDR is a really popular trauma therapy used a lot with any like military veterans, survivors of abuse, car accidents, pretty much anything traumatic is very applicable, big T trauma or little T trauma. And it kind of accesses this part in your brain that is available during REM sleep and helps kind of recompartmentalize experiences, memories, traumas in the brain so that you can work through them a little bit easier. That's kind of like how I explain it to someone not in the therapy world. And it's really difficult and expensive to get trained in. So I'm really excited that Grace will have that under her belt and to offer to our clients. So yeah. And she's really also interested in somatic work that goes really well with trauma in terms of like how is trauma stored in the body.
So
really
somatics mean literally physically
yes
in the body.
yeah so like kind of somatic healing interventions to integrate that with talk therapy, so you kind of have brain and body integration and working through that. Yeah, so that's Grace. I'm trying to give like a little recap of everybody.
You're
so
good. We've got all the time in the world.
Good.
And I'm loving how much diversity you have
Yeah.
in what is offered at Your Journey Through.
Yes, Brittany Coker. She is a marriage and family therapist, and so she does a lot of our dynamic work. She's also very well versed in trauma and treating trauma. All I should also mention, everyone at our practice is LGBT affirming and
Wonderful.
accepting. And Brittany does a lot of couples work. She
Mhm.
runs our women's divorce and post separation support group. That's virtual
Awesome.
just for accessibility because a lot of women, especially women with children, just need that kind of flexibility, especially in
Sure.
the evenings. So yeah, she is she also works with clients who have OCD
Mhm.
and any
Like the
auto.
obsessive compulsive disorder on that
Yes.
anxiety spectrum.
Thank you for pulling out these
You're
like
good.
acronyms that I keep using.
Hey, you know what? That's part of the fun of this show. Is
Yeah.
it's not just about giving you an hour to talk about all the amazing things you're doing, but also allowing for the world to have a little bit more education in what
Yeah.
is available and what is out there, and
Absolutely.
destigmatizing a lot of it.
Yes, yeah. So OCD, and she works with individuals who have like chronic conditions or autoimmune disorders as well.
Mhm.
So yeah, that's really wonderful. And then we've got Mary. Mary Dick is also a marriage and family therapist, and she's our primary play therapist. So she sees kids
Oh,
under
fun.
12.
Yeah.
Great referral for you.
Yes.
Yes.
Because play therapy and what I do, they can seem similar. Very, very different.
Yes.
Very different. And different families need different types of support. So absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And her background is actually she worked at a hospice facility for children, and she has so much experience in grief and loss and
Mhm.
working with families who are given difficult diagnoses or terminal diagnoses.
Mhm.
She also has done a lot of research into children of divorced families. So does a lot of amazing work with little ones who are either navigating divorce or grief and loss in their
Yeah.
families.
Incredible.
And then we've got Miranda. And Miranda primarily works with adults. She sees some older teens, and she honestly has a gift of working with adult men, especially those who
Yeah.
are like a little hesitant or resistant about therapy.
Mhm.
She's really analytical. She does a lot of research on the side. And I just feel like she just has this way of helping men feel comfortable in therapy and really connecting with them. And lo and behold, she has a wait list because of it. So pretty much everybody has some availability right now.
Mhm.
Besides Miranda has a wait list. And of course, because we see so many teens, those after school hours are coveted.
Certainly. I see the same
Yes.
thing in my work.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's our team.
That's
Um,
fantastic. How did you find each of them? Was it like, oh, I'm looking for somebody who can do this? There's that person, or was it more of a, I found this amazing personality and you can do this thing? Great. Let's add you in.
Yeah, I'm huge on personality fit
Mhm.
in our practice. I want it to be just our website kind of coins that we are pretty relatable in terms of nature.
Love that.
Even our office, when you walk in, it's like a living room. It is not like a
Mhm.
clinical type of feel. I've worked really hard from like a branding perspective to kind of promote that message in efforts to destigmatize mental health and just help people feel a little bit more comfortable. And so, yeah, I found them. Some were kind of connections through other therapists,
Mhm.
or just I would put out an ad and interview several people and say, this person's a great fit for us.
Yeah.
So,
Beautiful. Well,
yeah.
you mentioned branding there, and that's something that is incredibly important across all businesses. We're both business owners. We know, like, oh, this will be no big deal. No, it's huge.
Yeah, it's
It's
huge.
massive, and it helps the world know, hey, I'm here for you and for these things.
Mhm.
When we get into branding, often practitioners, therapists, mental health, we don't have any training in that.
Mhm.
But you have some different courses and things that are available. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So around 2019, I said, okay, I'm going to start kind of entering into this social media space.
Mhm.
I'm seeing some other therapists doing it, and I think it would be fun, if not really just help with marketing. And so that's what I did. And my goal was to really just help destigmatize mental health, like put some
Sure.
posts out there, give some accessible information to those who may not have ready access to services. And so that's what I started doing. And I started kind of building up this community that has grown significantly now. And so about a year in, I had therapists in my DMs and on Instagram, private messaging me saying, "How are you doing this?
Yeah.
Like, this is so
How do
cool."
you have a life?
Yeah,
and do
right.
this?
And like, how do I do this ethically as a therapist too?
Oh, cheers.
It's
That's a really good point.
huge.
Absolutely.
And so what I did in 2020, especially because of the pandemic, and my goal with it was to also just get more therapists visible for people who are really needing them, especially therapists with different expertise. And so I created a course called Insta Growth for Therapists and basically showed them everything I did to grow into the presence that I have now on social media in an ethical way too. So there's a whole module on ethics. There's a whole module on branding, growth strategy, like lots of different kind of trainings there. I've had other therapists who are larger on social media contribute bonus modules to the course on different
Love that.
things. So yeah, there's close to 300 therapists in that course now. And
Wow.
yeah, it's really blown up and it's been really cool to see. I also offer one-on-one coaching on both in like Instagram growth, but also now diversifying your income as a therapist.
Oh, very cool.
Because as a catalyst, I guess the Instagram was the catalyst to diversifying my income through courses, through coaching, I created a podcast with a friend from
Very
grad
cool.
school called My Therapist Thinks. I started
I
doing
love that title.
Yeah, My Therapist Thinks. I started doing brand deals with other kind of companies, and I've just learned how to diversify my income because I think
So
therapists
cool.
therapists are kind of in this pickle, for lack of better terms, like because there's only one of us and there's only so many one-on-one sessions we can do in a day.
Very true.
So like just figuring out how to scale and increase income and do it in a way that is really still aligned with your values.
Absolutely.
Even when it comes to working with brands, I think that's something therapists are really nervous about. And
Sure. All the ethics implications of that. And I love that you have a course and one-on-one to be able to parse that out and do it safely and effectively.
And what ended up happening was, so my first course was Insta Growth for Therapists. These therapists that took it grew so quickly that they were getting pitches from brands of like, do you want to partner? And they would come back to me and say, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, how do I make sure I do
Sure.
this right? And so I created a second course specifically on that. And it's called the Connected Collab, kind of as a spin-off of you want to do collaborations in a way that's connected with your values
Love that.
and this field. So there are things I absolutely will not partner with on like supplements. Like they're not
Sure.
FDA regulated. I'm a licensed professional. I have to consider that. And giving therapists kind of like those pieces that you can pull from our ethical code to guide, what you're doing professionally.
Yeah, very
Mhm.
cool. So what are your social media handles if somebody wants to follow
Yeah, my Instagram is at Your Journey Through. It's just the name of our practice. So that's where I would start. And if you go to the link in bio, that's where you can find all my courses, my coaching information, a ton of freebies on enmeshment that we just talked about.
that.
So yeah, there's like a quiz, is your family enmeshed? Enmeshment prompts you can use, a boundary setting blueprint to use with your family, which is like a 3-step, super simple script for those that are just like really intimidated by boundary setting. So
Awesome.
I kind of fuse in my clinical work with the business coaching side too on my
Yeah.
Instagram.
Very cool. Well, let's go a little bit deeper into everything that you offer when we get to the other side of this break.
Awesome.
You are listening to the Helpers Hour on Nextdoor Radio, nextdoorradio.com, and the Nextdoor Radio app. We'll see you on the other side of this break.
Need a place for a one-stop shop for all your advertising and promotional items? Outside the Box Promotions and Apparel has you covered for screen printing, vinyl, heat transfer, embroidery, plaques, banners, yard sales, laser engraving, and even medals and coins. Outside the Box Promotions and Apparel prides herself in the quality of their work and has quick turnaround times. A one-stop shop for all your advertising and promotional needs. Call today at 252-213-4072. Visit their website at www.otb27537.com for more information. Outside the Box Promotions and Apparel is your one-stop shop. Outside the Box is located on Industry Drive in Henderson. Are you looking for a fun, learning, and interacting daycare for your child? I invite you to take a tour and learn about what Little Explorers Academy is all about. Little Explorers Academy is located at 616 MLK Junior Avenue in Oxford, a fun learning environment where your child is cared for by their loving staff that treats them like their own. Little Explorers Academy is located at 616 MLK Junior Avenue in Oxford.
Families Living Violence Free is Granville County's domestic violence and sexual assault crisis center with a mission of giving voice and support to domestic violence and sexual assault victims. Families Living Violence Free offers a 24/7 domestic violence and sexual assault crisis line, individual supportive counseling for adults and children, customized safety planning and support groups, and so much more. Call 919-693-5700 or para marcar en español 919-690-0888. Visit flvf.org today to see how they can help you or to see how you can support them. That's flvf.org.
Now's the best time of year to get more for your money on new Mahindras. Enjoy 0% interest or save thousands of dollars on rugged Mahindra tractors. That's more for less on many of Mahindra's best-selling models, with tractors that deliver more lift capacity, fuel efficiency, and built-in weight. Save more on Mahindra today. Visit Vanco Outdoor Equipment, your local Mahindra tractor dealer. 0% APR. Financing available for limited time only. See us or go to MahindraUSA.com for more information.
Welcome back. You're listening to the Helpers Hour on Nextdoor Radio, nextdoorradio.com, and the Nextdoor Radio app. I am here with Mary Beth Somich from Your Journey Through, and we were talking about all the amazing things that are happening on social media with therapists and how you're able to help a lot of folks be able to get involved in social media in a way that's ethical and that's effective and can lead to other types of income, which I love because that means we're not having to pump up the prices for our clients in order to make a living, which is just wonderful. I think this is something that we as a field can explore further in order to actually remain perhaps more ethical. Forward.
Absolutely.
Can you tell me a little bit about what would lead somebody to reach out to you, to like, what is the why that people come with?
I would say the most common is I really desire to build a presence on social media so that I can launch some kind of more passive income offering, whether it be a course, a workbook, like a training, a workshop, anything like that. You need to have a community to roll it out to. And so establishing that first, it also helps validate your offer. Like sometimes we'll create this community and then we'll kind of give them a small taste of a larger offer and they don't respond. And that's really valuable to know before you create this whole thing and spend so much time and energy and money maybe doing that, to really validate your offer first and then also have a community to roll it out to so that you don't hear crickets after you've created this thing.
Sure.
So a social media presence, an email list is also pretty important. Email marketing conversion is one of the highest. So sometimes social media is just kind of a funnel into your email list, and that's a way to look at it. Other therapists will come to me because they want to grow their private practice, especially if they're private pay, because that's very unique and different from insurance-based practices that usually get steady referrals. Another big one is making the move into group practice as a practice owner. Yeah. So I help coach on that now that I've been doing group practice for a little over 4 years, and we have 6 clinicians now. So making that move, creating courses, I provide coaching on that, just kind of every step from the idea and the niche kind of population you should be marketing to actually developing an outline and what course platform to use and what email marketing platform to use and things like that. So yeah, lots of different avenues of business coaching.
Yes, that is quite a diverse set of avenues. And it's so interesting how each one of them links back to something we already talked to today. Like, oh yeah, you're coming to this from experience. You have been through this. People have asked for your support. You've taken it forward in a way that can be not just one-on-one. Certainly you have the one-on-ones, but brought forward to a number of people. And you said 300 some odd people at this point
are in the course. Yes. And then there are, of course, people that I coach that the course, they didn't need the course. Maybe they already had a large social media presence to begin with. But yeah, I really enjoy that. It's kind of like
Yeah.
the side thing that I am doing. And I feel like it's so important to have qualified voices out there,
Mm.
especially on social media. I see a lot of unqualified voices. I think there's a statistic that came out about how like 60% of TikTok information surrounding mental health is not actually research based. And when you look at the sources,
Yeah.
you can kind of see why. And so having some more kind of licensed professionals and qualified professionals out there and getting their voices out there is something I'm really passionate about too.
That makes sense. Looking at that piece of like, hey, find good information. It sounds like if we will go to your social media, we could see your qualifications, we could look up your licensure. Is that something, if I'm just somebody looking for mental health information on social media, should I be looking for those sorts of markers to know that, hey, this could be somebody that's worth listening to versus this is somebody that's saying if your arm does this, then you have a that.
Oof, yeah. And the hard part is that the average person who is not in the psych field doesn't know what these letters behind your name mean.
Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I actually, when I'm coaching therapists, I say, take all those letters out of your bio because they're taking up space and they have no meaning to people.
Sure. Sure.
So tell them what you really do and use the word licensed and like licensed therapist instead of, LMFT. To give them that
Like
because
a licensed marriage family therapist.
yes,
Gotcha.
yeah. So it is confusing, I think, but I think we can do a better job of, listing credentials and kind of data behind things.
Sure.
I would caution behind the post that like you said, like, oh, if your arm raises, you have ADHD. Like these like silly kind
Sure.
of the causation. What is the phrase? Correlation is not causation.
Yes. Yep. Yeah, there's some really interesting perusing social media and seeing some of the things that are out there. I'm excited to hear about more professionals being able to ethically hop in and provide some support because there's a lot of information where I go, okay, I can see where A equals B and B equals C, but A does not equal C.
Right.
And when we're looking from behavior analytic lens, we're looking at relational frames. We have the transitive properties in place, but it's not an adaptive. It's not a true stimulus equivalence. Yeah, it's not a true causation. I think when you don't have the training and the licensure, you may not even know that you're making that connection when it isn't there. It's really interesting stuff.
Yeah.
So being able to support more people going into this, being able to provide that information, what sort of things have the people you trained brought into the world? Is it like specific facts? Are they able to do a little bit of like, hey, this is what I do. Also, here's some really good information. Please take it forward.
Yeah.
What sort of things are they sharing?
Yeah, I'm thinking about my current business coaching clients, like that I'm actively having appointments with. One of them is creating a training, both for clients and therapists on IFS, which is internal family systems, which is a type of family therapy and individual therapy, honestly. And so that's really cool. I have another therapist who wants to offer, she specializes in treating men. And she is creating a coaching program for other therapists who have questions about marketing to male clients, working with male clients, special like male issues. And then I have another coaching client who is, she's done a ton of media appearances. That's kind of her jam.
Very cool.
A ton of news and radio. And she is going to start her own coaching program on how to help other therapists kind of get into media. So again,
Very
along
cool.
the line of like those qualified voices. So that's her jam. And then I have a couple other therapists who really want to expand into group practice and are hiring new therapists into their practice for the first time so that they can offer like more services to their community. So,
absolutely. And is this just local or people from all over joining?
all over. Yeah.
Wow.
It's usually from different states. So all over the US. I've even consulted with some therapists in Canada, especially
cool.
about like social media. Because that's really applicable there. I don't know as much about like group practice laws and like regulations in other countries. But when it comes to social media, it's pretty standard. So yeah, that's something I can consult with people in other places.
Yeah, it sounds like Instagram in particular could be a great place for therapists.
Yeah.
Are there other platforms that can be super helpful, and how might those sort of integrate in?
That's a really great question. So I would definitely say it depends on the population you work with.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Say more.
Generationally, for sure. So millennials
Mm.
are totally on Instagram. They are elsewhere, of course, too. A little bit on Facebook, a little bit on TikTok, but primarily on Instagram.
Gotcha.
So I would even say like 25 to 40, 50 is pretty solid Instagram. If you look at your insights on Instagram, that's usually the population that's the largest.
Sure, and insights would be the data that you get as
Yes.
the administrator.
Yes, as the owner of the account, you can click and look. But I would say Gen Z and below loves TikTok. So if you're marketing to
Good old
them,
Z and Alpha.
yes,
Yeah.
you might need or want to create some kind of TikTok presence there. And then I would say boomer generation is all about Facebook. So if that's the population you work with, then a Facebook presence or Facebook ads might be a good route for you.
Yeah, incredible. And of course, there's a bazillion other social media things, but those are going to be our big
Yes.
focuses.
Yeah. And podcasts are across the board. Everybody loves a podcast. So
Yes.
yeah. Yeah. And podcasts are so marketable too. I will say.
Mm.
So I have a podcast with a friend I went to Columbia with for grad school. She specializes in OCD.
And this is your therapist thinks, correct?
My therapist thinks.
My therapist
Yep,
thinks,
my
right.
therapist thinks. And I barely had to put any attention into growing the social media for that podcast. People would just follow it naturally because they just look for a podcast on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever they listen to their podcasts, and just it naturally grows. So I think podcasts are a great method of growth, and they also help boost your SEO, which is search engine optimization, on Google. So, the more your name is out there on Google, the easier it is to find you usually. And podcasts really help with that.
Yeah. Looking at those different platforms, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and even podcasts. So looking at like the social media and just the personal media side of things. If I've got somebody that is really scared to get involved, like I am very ethics cautious, where would you kind of push them to land? Let's say, regardless of who they're marketing to. They could be marketing to anybody.
Yeah. That's a great question, because I feel like you need disclaimers on anything you're doing.
Sure.
Even on Instagram, I recommend to everybody in my course, my coaching clients, that you have an ethical disclaimer very visible right on your page, that you also have one in your informed consent that says, hey, I'm on social media and you do not need to follow me. You're welcome to, but I will not follow you back if you're a client of mine. It also may compromise your confidentiality if you choose to engage or comment on any of my posts or like any of my posts.
Sure.
So disclosing all of that, I think from the get-go, anything that I show on social media, you are not obligated to purchase or, get involved in by any means. Like, just laying all of that out there for clients. But I will say that there are, when it comes to being fearful of ethics, there are so many more positives than negatives that I have found from being on these platforms. I think in grad school, where they put a lot of fear in us ethically.
Sure, I'd say that.
Yeah. And
like intensive was gentle earlier. I think that the fear of ethics is a gentle way to put it now.
Exactly. Yeah. And sometimes that's not really what is most therapeutically beneficial for your clients either. An example of that is ethics classes will tell you remain a blank slate. Don't let your client know a thing about you. And don't give them any information. Well, obviously, if you have a social media presence, there's a little bit of that. Like, even if it's, the background of your home or something in a video.
Sure. The color you chose for your wall.
Right, exactly. Big or small. So I have found that that's actually extremely connecting, that people will seek you out because there is some common denominator, whether it be a life experience or a preference or just any kind of information about you. That can actually be,
you get me already.
Yeah, it can be really helpful. Like, I'm thinking about clients who have disclosed like struggles with fertility, for example, and how powerful that is for a client who is looking for a therapist if they're struggling with their fertility. Like
Sure.
these kind of connections. Not to say there aren't amazing therapists who have not struggled, who can't help that client.
Certainly.
But for certain clients, it's really important, that just extra level of empathy and understanding. So I think there is actually some benefit to not being a blank slate.
Yeah. So this is not just about can we get the information out, but also that piece of like destigmatizing the therapist.
Yes.
Almost like, hey, I'm not going to come in and just be like, and how does that make you feel, and stare at you? No,
Yeah.
I'm a real person. Like you
Right.
said with the branding of your physical space.
Yeah.
That comfort and relatability is a part of it.
And I'm a big proponent of like not having this hierarchical dynamic of like, I'm the expert in the room.
Oh, I
and
love that.
yeah, like that rubs me so wrong.
Absolutely.
And I
There will
think
never be somebody who knows you better than
Right.
you do.
you are the expert of your own life. There's
Yes.
nobody else.
I love
So, and for me, that's like a form of respect for the client too.
Mm.
So I think it also helps with that dynamic.
Absolutely. Absolutely. When we come back after this last break, I want to talk a little bit more about how somebody can get a hold of you and get into these courses, into coaching, get a hold of your journey through to be able to get some one-on-one support. You are listening to the Helpers Hour on Nextdoor Radio, nextdoorradio.com, and the Nextdoor Radio app. We'll see you on the other side of this break.
It's time for you to visit Tobacco Wood Brewing Company with 2 great locations for the perfect award-winning brew and great foods such as chicken and waffles, tacos, barbecue plates, house salads, nachos, wings. That's just mentioning a few of the great items in Oxford at 117 Wall Street and in Durham at 2500 Mediterranean Parkway. Did I mention award-winning beer, the Kilted Eddie, Liquid Luck, Rocket Surgery, the Moose, and the Porter Express? Again, I'm just mentioning my favorites. Find your favorite brew mixed with a great atmosphere and great food at Tobacco Wood Brewing Company today. 2 great locations in Oxford and in Durham. Tobacco Wood Brewing Company is veteran-owned and operated. Discover Granville County, an alternative to your everyday that's uniquely Carolina. An alternative to what you have, a yin to the everyday yang. Yet we are not far away, but in your own backyard. Check us out at www.visitgranvillenc.com.
At Granville Health System, we're not just a hospital. We're your neighbors, your friends, and your healthcare family. Our community-driven hospital is all about bringing you the quality care you deserve right where you live. From expert medical professionals to state-of-the-art facilities, we've got it all. Granville Health System is committed to providing personalized care that's as unique as you are, because we believe that good health starts at home, and we're proud to be your healthcare partner. Granville Health System, where community and care come together. So for healthcare that's close to home and a hospital that feels like family, choose Granville Health System. Your health, our community, our commitment.
As the sun shines brighter and the days grow longer, you know it's time for Island Breeze HVAC to ensure your cooling system is as refreshing as a gentle sea breeze. Our expert HVAC maintenance doesn't just cut down on energy bills, it transforms your living space into your own personal paradise all season long. Island Breeze HVAC, making comfort a breeze and the best choice in North Carolina.
Easy breezy, Island Breezy, call 919-693-HVAC.
PlumServe LLC technicians have over 20 years of experience in plumbing repair and services. They pride themselves in being a local, honest, and professional company. Let them give you a quote today on those needed upgrades in your home. Your choice for plumbing in Creedmoor, Oxford, Henderson, Durham, Raleigh, Chapel Hill, Cary, Apex, Stem, Garner, and the greater Triangle area. Visit their website today to schedule. You can contact them there as well. PlumServeLLC.com. Again, that's PlumServeLLC.com.
Welcome back. You're listening to the Helpers Hour on Nextdoor Radio, nextdoorradio.com, and the Nextdoor Radio app. I'm excited for this last section with Mary Beth Somich from Your Journey Through. You've talked about so many amazing things today. You've talked about the folks that you have in your group practice, the coaching and the classes, or rather the courses that you have, a ton of different offerings. What is the best way for somebody to get in contact with you?
Yeah, so the best way is probably our website is yourjourneythrough.com. There's multiple tabs there. So there's one for group therapy, there's one for individual therapy, there's one for therapists. So if you're someone interested in like the coaching or the courses, you can find everything on that website. And there's also a contact form. So you can always just send me a message through the
Oh,
contact
perfect.
form. That's pretty easy. So that's yourjourneythrough.com. My Instagram is at yourjourneythrough. So you can always send me a message or a DM there. And then our practice email is hello@yourjourneythrough.com.
I love it.
Yeah, so it's pretty easy to remember. The course website itself is just called instagrowthfortherapists.com. If you want to go right there, there's all the information about that. But you can also find it through Your Journey Through's website.
Perfect. Looking at the offerings that you have, the ways to contact you, you said you can go directly through social media. Is that
Yeah.
just Instagram? Do you have a Facebook or anything?
Instagram. Yeah,
Instagram's the
primarily
winner?
Instagram. Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome.
Just there's a little message button you can click and then just send an inquiry and I'm happy to respond.
Awesome. And you already mentioned the different therapists that you have in your group practice that have availability. Do you have
Yes.
availability right now for your services, your coaching, and your courses?
I do, yes. I'm not taking on new therapy clients at the
Sure.
moment, but I am taking on more business coaching clients because it's more of like a one-off type of thing,
Sure.
usually. And then, yes, the course is always open. You can find that on my website or in my Instagram bio link. And then, yeah.
Very cool. For your group practice, private pay, insurance?
Yeah, great question. So we are private pay, and we do offer super bills, which I call fancy therapy receipts.
Yeah. The
That's-
old itemized receipt.
Yes, that's how I
Yep.
describe them, just fancy therapy receipts. And you can submit them to your insurance for potential partial reimbursement. Most of our clients receive between 50 to 80% reimbursement. However, you have to check your specific plan.
Yes.
And we have a benefits checker on our website under the services tab. It's called How It Works. And you can just plug in your insurance and it will tell you what your
That's
what your reimbursement rate is. And then another thing we've done recently is partnered with Thrizer. Thrizer is kind of the middleman. So we process your payment through Thrizer instead, and they actually submit it to your insurance, and you get the direct deposit.
That's so cool.
Yeah, you get like a direct deposit reimbursement, so you don't have to do anything.
Yeah.
And once your deductible is met, Thrizer charges like a 5% fee of the session cost. So I think it's like $6 or $7 for
For them
each
to take care
session.
of all the headaches.
Yeah, for you to
Oh, that's
basically
so
get
cool.
like, what is it? Probably like $60 to $90 back in your bank account.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you don't have to do anything. So that has been really cool and helpful. Clients really appreciate that, especially those who are
Yes.
like, I ask for these super bills, but I just forget to submit them. Like this just takes care of
Yes.
that.
Yes, I've certainly seen where it's like, okay, first part of the session, we have to do super bills because I will not do this otherwise.
Right.
Let's sit down and do it together. We're going to take it to the mailbox just because you can get lost so quickly.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
there's
And
so many good benefits there.
so many people don't even know that they have out of network reimbursement. Like they look at a practice
Sure.
and they say, oh, you don't take my insurance. You're not an option. But I would
Yes.
challenge that because you can sometimes like the reimbursement is comparable to a copay or just a little bit more. And many people don't know that insurance doesn't pay therapists well. It doesn't.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
No.
And
the headache from insurance costs so much to work with.
right. Like I know therapists who have not been paid by their insurance companies who are supposed to be paying them since Valentine's Day, which is just horrific to
I have
me.
experienced similar horror stories.
Yeah.
Yes.
So,
Mhm.
there are therapists who are really committed to working with insurance and really just want to do that. But I also take pause of like, it's really difficult to be an insurance accepting therapist. And there's a lot of therapists, there's good reasons why they're not accepting it, just in terms of their own boundaries with their
Sure.
finances. So, yeah, out of network benefits are a thing to help make that
Awesome.
accessible still.
Yeah, and you said it was Thriver?
Thrizer.
Thrizer. with an
Yes.
S.
THRIZER.
Oh, with a Z. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Such a cool service. And to be able to have that already integrated so that folks that come to you, it's almost as if they're just getting their straight insurance benefit.
Yeah.
Very
Yeah.
cool. Very, very cool. Looking at everything we've talked about today, which is a ton, we've had some really cool things we've hit on.
Yeah.
if somebody was listening and they're just going to take one thing away from our conversation, maybe it's something that you've already said, maybe it's something that has popped into your head and gone, man, I really hope that they get this out of it. What would you want somebody to take away from our conversation?
Yeah, I feel like we're speaking to two populations, sort
Sure,
of.
you can do two
So I
different
can
ones.
separate it.
Yeah, please.
I would say to the therapists who are like burnt out, seeing too many clients weekly, feeling like they're underpaid, that there are options available to you. You can scale in different ways. You can move into private practice. You can diversify your income. It doesn't have to be that way. That's what I would tell them.
Sure.
And then for the client population that is really just looking for some like quality support, I would say like mental health does not need to feel diagnostic or icky or just medicalized or
I
any
love
of
that.
that. And if it does, maybe you're not at the right fit right now.
Sure.
I really kind of promote modern mental health as being relatable, accessible, and relevant to your life. And so if you're not feeling like it is that way, there are therapists who can help make it that way for you.
Gotcha. So finding the right fit.
Yeah.
It's out there.
Yes.
Beautiful. I absolutely love that. Well, Mary Beth Salmich, this has been incredible. Thank you so much for bringing so much information about what we can do for therapists to support each other and to support businesses, as well as what you have available at your journey through to help for our community that we have in this area. Real quick, if people are going to your journey through, are your therapists mostly virtual? Do you have, you mentioned you do have a physical location. Where is that?
Yes, our physical location is on Six Forks Road.
Mhm.
So it's kind of North Raleigh area, around a lot of different things. So we all offer in-person sessions, but also virtual availability just for accessibility. So yeah, we offer both. Try to continue to make it accessible. Yeah, thank you for having me and just letting me
Absolutely.
kind of talk through all of these offerings and things that we have for people.
That was great to have you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Everyone, thank you for joining us on the Helpers Hour on Nextdoor Radio, nextdoorradio.com, and the Nextdoor Radio app. We will see you next week.
Okay. I'm about